Hello, Dothack Collectors. Today we're looking at strategy guides. There were 21 strategy guide books, both in Japanese and in English. These came out when Dothack first got it on the ground back in 2002 and also in North America in 2003. We have strategy guides for the original Dothack series. We also have strategy guides for Dothack Fragment, GU, and Dothack Link. Today we're going to be looking at only the strategy guides. We're not going to be looking at art and info books. The whole topic today is just strategy guides. Starting with the first one here. This is the Dothack Katakawa Game Collection strategy guides. And as you can see right here in the top corner, you'll see the K for Katakawa. The first one didn't have it, but it does say it on the spine. And of course, the front cover. Now, all of the Japanese strategy guides were actually published by Katakawa or one of Katakawa's subsidiary. So these came first back in 2002. The North American ones came out in 2003. Now these were published in North America by Brady Games. Brady Games did all four of the first four games, and they also did one for Dothack GU. Now, what's interesting about the Brady games, these books, there's only 5 in North America. They never did a volume 2 or volume 3 for GU, but Brady games did exist back in 2002, 2003, and so forth, and 2006 when this book came out, but in 2013, Brady Games, if you aren't aware, they merged with what would become Prima Games, and Prima Games after 2013 was the name for all the North American strategy guides, or at least one of the major ones, but Brady Games' name itself was dissolved after that. So that's pretty much it for the North American strategy guides. There were no alternative options. You only had those 5 there. So now we're going to take a look closer at all the Japanese versions. So first was the Katakawa ones, which all said Katakawa on them. We have volumes 1, volumes 2, volumes 3, and volumes 4. Now these books here are pretty straightforward. They do read from left to right. Page numbers on the bottom. First you start with the character descriptions. And then you get into the game mechanics, teaching you how to play the game, how to navigate the screens, the user interface. And then it moves on to stats, such as all the grunty foods, email chains, and then after that we start heading into the actual strategy that you would associate with strategy guides, giving you basically a walkthrough of how the game starts and where to go next. And they even give you detailed maps of all the dungeons. But these strategy guides were pretty much bare bones. They only did what you would expect from a strategy guide. And then they go into data such as items, spells, and then weapons, armors, and then it would go on to monsters. You would have all the monster data. But these guides would never go ahead of themselves. So these strategy guides would obviously be exclusive for Dothack Infection. There will be no data on here relevant to Dothack Mutation, Outbreak, or Quarantine. And that would be it. And that's no different from the rest. These books did not deviate from that formula. It was just character introductions, the actual game interface instructions, the walkthroughs you would expect to find in a strategy guide, and then spreadsheets of data revolving around items, spells, armor, and monsters. But that wasn't the only one that they did for Dothack Infection. They also have these 4 guides right here, starting with Volume 1, that's Kite on it, Volume 2 with Black Rose, Volume 3 with Balmung, and then Volume 4 with Aura, as you'll see right there. Now, in comparison, these books were much certainly a lot more pages than the first ones. And these did deviate with more information than just what we covered. They used to have illustrations. They still have the same stuff that strategy guides would have. You'd have your tables for monsters, items. You'd have your actual walkthrough with maps. And then character information, user interface, how to navigate, and all that information. But they would also deviate with additional information, like here's a timeline of the Dothack series up until this game. All the other media that was available, not just the video games, but also the animes and the books. Now these were actually published not by Kadokawa directly, but these were published by Famitsu. And you can see the logo right there for Famitsu. And then you'll see the Enterbrain logo on the bottom. But you also see the Famitsu mascot on the paper sheet that's wrapped around on the cover. And then there's the Kadokawa logo there as well. So these are referred to as the complete guides. And then these didn't call themselves master guides, but when we get into GU, you'll find that these are a lot like the GU master guides. So first came the GU master guides. Now these came out in 2006, and again, those started in 2002. Now these were not published by Famitsu, they were published by Dengeki PlayStation on all three of them. Remember, those had the Famitsu logo, but those had the Kadokawa. Be a reminder that all these are owned by Kadokawa. So we had Volume 1, and just like the first series, these are pretty much specifically bare bones minimum. You got character information, you got user interface information, and then we get into the actual strategy guides, or the walkthroughs with actual game maps. Now some of these sections are color coded, so walkthroughs in blue, UI in pink, and then character info in white. So we skip ahead, and just like the other ones, you would eventually get to different data information. So here we have some of the characters. Here's some of the different contraptions. So there's more, actually these are different challenges here. But still, there's your weapons, data spreadsheets, your items, and then your monsters. These are the actual data that's in the game, such as level, HP, defense, attack, and things like that. They had a little bit of information other than that, but we're talking about 1 to 2 pages. So those, pretty thin, until you get to these guys. Now these guys, just like the bigger ones over there, are also done by Famitsu. It has the Enterbrain logo over here. Now these guys are definitely much more beefier by comparison. Whereas these were the master guide, these are referred to as the complete guide. Now the whole reason why I want to bring these up is, even though these two over here were bare bones and these have more information, the question became, what was the additional information that you could get from these complete guides? Now, these complete guides did have interviews. So we had staff interviews in the back of each of these complete guides. Still had the monster data, email chains, weapons, items, armors, actual walkthrough strategy guides, and then user interface information and character information. But that was the interview and strategy guide number 1. Strategy guide number 2 had some character illustrations in the back, but they also had some more interviews. And this being the biggest of all of them. So this one actually came with a questionnaire section with different questions, and then the staff answering those questions. I'm not sure whether these questions were hand-picked or submitted by mail or email, or if there was a form you could fill out on the website. I don't know, but there is also an interview in this one as well with the CC2 staff. Now, I think this one goes more with the voice actors than the other two did. Monster data, email chains, item tables, armor tables, weapon tables, actual strategy guides. But that's what we had in those issues right there. Going back real quick, the bonus content in this was weird because it was on, not on the back, it was on page 100 where they had this little section where they talked about some other content that they had going on. For example, it first talks about Hacky, which was a publication they had for free. And they even go talk about Dothack Radio, which was basically a podcast on their website. And then also on page 44, there was some more information as well right here. So volume 1, I guess they started the trend of breaking away from what you expect in the strategy guides. But volume 2, they put things in the back, so it'd be easier to find. So if we skip these email chains, right here is where what you saw in volume 1, just more of the same content, discussions about different parts of the project Dothack. I mean, but they still have the same stuff that the other books had with data tables and walkthroughs, and then character information. Now, another thing that was interesting that I noticed was the names. For example, they spelled Skeith as S-Q-A-I-S. Kubia is what you expect. Same thing with Aura. But Skeith is definitely spelled differently there. Now, another thing that I noticed, Kite was spelled differently. Here it's K-I-T-E, like we all know, but in the other one they also used Kaito in the other books. Also, I don't remember ever seeing Sanjuro's full name. So I thought that was interesting. Everyone else seems to be pretty much the same. They tend to spell Hellbound with 2 L's a lot in these books. Let's go back to this one. You'll see what I mean. They spelled some of the characters differently. So Hellbow's right here with 2 L's again. The one I would expect to be wrong would have been Balmong's, but it didn't get changed until later on. Here we have Kites with K-I-T-E. But let's go back to volume 3. Now, volume 3, here we have Kite spelled correctly. Helba with one L this time. Balmong is spelled the way it should be. There we go. So Helba has one L, but Balmong they spelled with a C instead of a G. I'm not sure if that's a typo. Kite is kite, not kite too. Now this one was interesting. Moonstone's name is spelled completely different. And then Skeith is spelled S-Q-U-A-I-S this time. In the other book, it was S-Q-A-I-S. So even if it's the same publication, this was all done by Famitsu. They're very inconsistent, which I found that weird. I can understand if it was inconsistent with Famitsu and let's say Dengeki or Katakawa, but that wasn't the case. Now, the names in this one don't have little English subtitles. They're all in Japanese. But I think it's that way on all of them. Yeah, these are all in Japanese. So, now the other two books, besides the English ones, we also had Dothack Fragment. Now, just like the original ones, this was published by Katakawa. And this one doesn't have any extra information. It's mostly strictly monster data, items, weapons, spells, key items, and things like that. Now, it does have some maps for the offline mode. So basically, you do have a small walkthrough that's this many pages. And the rest is just all user interface, navigation type stuff. And then the last book to come out was the Dothack Link. Now, this came out in 2010. The Fragment book came out in 2005. Now, Dothack Link, it does have a lot of stuff. There's some illustrations, but they also have an interview here with some of the CC2 staff. This one right here, featuring the vice president of Bandai, the president of CyberConnect 2, the artist for Dothack Link, and the producer for Dothack. We got characters, monster tables, item tables, weapons, some maps. So we're right in the middle of the walkthroughs. Some more character data. And that's about it. And this one was also published by Famitsu. So all in all, these are all of the Dothack strategy guide books, with your Japanese books and then your English books. But there was never a strategy guides for Dothack Versus, the fighting game. There was never one for the GU Last Recode remake because you're simply just taking volumes 1 through 3 books, and then the volume 4 of GU Last Recode is just an epilogue. You just follow it through. But other than that, when it comes to Dothack video games, this is all we had. I mean, there were still the 2 mobile phone games, but there was no strategy guides for those, being Guilty Dragon and Dothack New World. Guilty Dragon did have some art books, but it did not have any official strategy guides. But that's all I want to show you today is all the different Dothack books, what they look like when it came to strategy guides. So once again, these are the 8 Dothack IMOQ books. These are the 6 Dothack GU books. These are the 2 books, one for Fragment and Dothack Link. And then, of course, the North American books. And that's all we have today. Thank you for watching. And if you have more questions about any of these books, be sure to drop a line down in our comments or hop on over to our Dothack Discord, where we'll find more information and even pictures of the interviews if you want to read them over. And thank you for watching.